Hello people and welcome back to another video. So tomorrow I will be looking at one of the newest trailers for the new Hellboy film. And I've been following this film rather closely. I haven't talked about it on this channel yet, but I will be watching and responding to the newest trailer tomorrow. But tonight I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to do a sort of retrospect about my love for the films of Del Toro. Now, Del Toro, if you don't know, is by now a world famous director, famous for different horror and fantasy films. Film like Kronos, the Hellboy films, Pan's Labyrinth, and Blade 2, to name a few. I absolutely love him as a director. He's not only one of my favorite directors, but I think might be one of the best directors ever. He is so versatile in his style of the sort of imaginative fantasy and horror combination. It's great. It's great. I love Del Toro, and I have a few items here. Here's Del Toro right here. There's Hellboy. This is The Strain Vampire, Hellboy's 2, Blade 2, Pan's Labyrinth, Kronos. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of Del Toro, and I am sorry that I'm not giving you his first name. I just don't want to massacre it when I say it, because I am terrible at his first name. But I got this a while back. This book actually costs almost $70. Now, you're probably saying, man, $70 is ridiculous for a fucking book. And it is, but I'm such a huge fan of his, and this book is every fan's dream. Sorry about the glare. What this is his notebook, and every note that he wrote for every film that he's done, and just different projects he's worked on. What you're seeing is a look in his house, a look in his work studios. You're seeing his drawings of certain films and what he thinks of them and the concepts of certain films. This book is fucking great if you are a huge fan. Like right there is Kronos. That is his drawings in his notebook. And let's skip a little more. Right here is Blade. If you look, here's drawings for different characters in the film Blade 2. And if we continue, there is the Blade 2 Vampire. Now we are into Hellboy. Now, the reason that I'm showing you these and talking about Del Toro is, well, he done Hellboy. Not the comic book itself, but the first two films, which I consider to be, well, two of my favorite comic book films. Before Marvel had giant hits with the likes of the Iron Man and these new like Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 sets, we had Del Toro, who made three really good hero films in the form of Blade 2 and Hellboy 1 and 2. These are terrific films, and they're beloved by the horror community and many other community, fantasy and everything else. Ron Perlman, the original Hellboy from his films, is what I still see as the perfect Hellboy. I'm going to tell you what I think of the new Hellboy tomorrow, but I just love him as Hellboy. His face is perfect for Hellboy. Everything about him is Hellboy. I think he was one of the most perfect casting choices that Del Toro ever made. Here's some more of his notebook and his drawings for his films. This book, if you are a fan of Del Toro or his films, is a must-have. It's a great fucking book. It's a great read. Now that we're still in the Hellboy section, this is a terrific book. I've read this book many times. Alright, now, and his favorite film of mine will probably always be Pan's Labyrinth. Are we past the Pan's Labyrinth section? I think we might be. Here it is. Pan's Labyrinth. If you are in love with fantasy films or horror in general, Pan's Labyrinth is a great Oscar-winning fantasy/horror film. It's great. I'd even put it on my list of like top 50 films of all time. I absolutely love Pan's Labyrinth. But I just wanted to give you an oversight of his films. I don't know if I've reviewed a lot of his, but I enjoy pretty much almost all of them. I do have a few complaints with a few of them. Devil's Backbone is usually considered to be one of his best. I think it's not. There are a few things in it which I could discuss. Maybe I was to review it. I haven't already. And of course, Hellboy, Pan's Labyrinth, I could go on forever about. And Pacific Rim, basically, along with the new Godzilla film in 2014, brought back the kaiju genre. You can obviously tell I'm a fan of Del Toro, and I just wanted to let you know that before I looked at the new Hellboy. I always wanted to talk about Del Toro, and I know this isn't an in-depth look. It's not comparing like photos or looking at every film that he's ever made, but this is just a quick overview of like the stuff I owned about him, his films, and how much I just respect him as a director. So if you are a fan of fantasy and horror, and you haven't heard of Del Toro, you haven't checked out his movies, I would highly recommend them. And if you've watched them and you really enjoy them and you want to know more about the films and more about the director, I highly recommend this book. It is definitely worth reading. It's definitely worth looking at. The pictures and drawings are worth it alone, but it's well written. It's well put together. He put it together himself. It's called the Del Toro Cabinet of Curiosities, My Notebooks, Collections, and Other Obsessions. If you're a huge fan, this is a must-own. So definitely check it out. This magazine is a retro, him talking about his films and stuff. I don't know if you can still get this, but if you can get your hands on this magazine, this is actually worth a look at because it goes into an in-depth interview of him talking about Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy, and such, and his, at the time, newest film, Crimson Peak. The magazine is an interesting read, but not quite as interesting as this book. So thank you for joining me in this video. I do apologize if you want like a really deep, in-depth look. Maybe one day I will actually make a 20 to 30 minute retrospect about his life and his films and things like that. But for now, I just wanted to tell you what I thought of him, how much I love his films, and how much I respect his style and him as a director. So thank you for joining me, and peace the fuck out.